All right, I think we are good to start. Am I audible? Bhageshri?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good morning everyone and welcome to today's webinar session. This is Ravi Mudaliar from Ekatva and today's topic is e-invoice and e-way bill, navigating GST digital backbone. It is our pleasure to introduce CA Bhageshri Dave, who brings with her over 11 years of post-qualification experience in indirect taxes with a strong specialization in service tax and GST. She qualified as a chartered accountant in 2015 and further strengthened her professional credentials by clearing the CS examination in 2016. Currently, she is associated with Kandar Mehta and Shah, a well-known firm for indirect tax consultancy, where she holds the position of Associate Director, Indirect Tax. In her role, she handles a wide range of corporate clients and is actively involved in key areas such as GST compliance, representation before various tax authorities, GST advisory and opinions, transaction advisory, and service tax audits. She has also actively contributed to firm's thought leadership initiative, including assisting in writing of GST budget book and GST compliance book. In addition, she has imparted training to CNAG officers and state tax officers on various important topics related to GST. Please join me in welcoming CA Bhageshri Dave. Over to you, Bhageshri.
First of all, thank you so much, Ravi bhai, for your detailed introduction. And yes, good morning to everyone. I hope I am audible as well as visible to everyone.
Yes,
So I'm
Bhageshri.
just sharing my screen. Okay. So I hope the screen is also visible. And let me start with something very real. So in GST, most of the notices don't come because of the complex law, but they come because of the simple mistakes. And most common place where the mistake happens is compliance, right? So imagine the situation, you issue an invoice today, everything looks perfect. You have also booked the same in your books of accounts. Returns are all perfectly filed. And after 5 to 6 months or a year back, next year, you receive the GST notice. And you start wondering, the problem kahan pe hua hai? So mistake does not happen at the time of notice, but mistake happens at the time of creation of an invoice or filing of the returns, right? So that is exactly what we are going to decode about today. So we will understand today what is the invoicing provision in practical terms, where the people actually goes wrong, and how the EV bill will EV bill also connect with it, and how we can avoid the problems before they raise through the notices, right? So let's begin the session, and we will try to keep it very simple, practical, and slightly interesting, right? So before we go into the detailed provision, it is important to understand one major shift in the GST. So earlier the GST was the written based system, right? So where the returns were filed by the taxpayers, and there was no provisions like invoicing, e-way bill at the time of introduction. But today the GST is the system driven before the written base. So meaning thereby the government has already their your data transaction data before you file the returns, and that data primarily comes from e-invoicing and the e-way bill, right? So before filing your GST returns, you fill the data, punch the data, and file with the GST portal through e-invoicing and e-way bill system. So most of the if these two compliances are correct regarding e-invoicing and e-way bill, then most of your compliance risk is already under control, right? So let's begin with the e-invoicing section. So e-invoicing is the electronic invoices where the taxpayer is required to upload their tax invoice details on the GST portal, on which is called as a IRP, Invoice Registration Portal. And then from that, the taxpayer will get the invoice reference number along with the QR code. and that QR code is required to be punched on the tax invoice of the taxpayer. So there are the three steps. The taxpayer will first of all generate the invoice in ERP, the normal tax invoice. Then after upload these details of invoice on the IRP portal, and the unique invoice reference number of 64 digit along with the QR code will be available from the portal that is required to be given on the tax invoice. Now the question is, okay, whether after generation of this invoice, whether the tax invoice is required to be issued by taxpayer? Yes. E-invoice is not the substitute of the tax invoice, and the e-invoice does not mean the preparation and generation of the taxpayer's invoice on the government portal. It is only just the intimation of this invoice data on the government portal as well as the buyer. Okay. Now, this is the timeline for the applicability of the invoicing. So generally, these e-invoicing provisions are only applicable in case of the B2B supplies. And you can see the government has started this applicability phase in the phase-wise manner. It was started in the October 20. It was started around October 2020, and this was applicable to the taxpayers whose aggregate turnover is more than 500 crore. Right. Now, this turnover limit has been decreased from 500 crore to, as of now, 500 crore, 200 crore, 50 crore, 20 crore, 10 crore, and as of now, this limit is 5 crore. So from August 2023, if the aggregate turnover of the taxpayer is more than 5 crore, then the IRN is required to be generated in case of a B2B supplies. Now, the client who is having a multiple registrations in the different states, and individually in each unit, the turnover is below the threshold. Now, whether these e-invoicing provisions are applicable or not. So we need to check this turnover on the PAN level turnover, that is aggregate turnover, not the turnover in a state. So you have to differentiate the turnover in state and the aggregate turnover, right? So if overall PAN level turnover is more than 5 crore, then even though the turnover of each unit is below threshold limit, then also e-invoicing provisions is applicable for the B2B supplies, right? Now, as far as aggregate turnover is concerned, aggregate turnover is required to be checked for the year starting from 2017-18 to till date. So if any of the financial years this turnover crosses this 5 crore limit, then e-invoicing provisions are applicable from the next year. Okay. Now, the government has also provided certain relaxations or exemptions in regarding these e-invoicing provisions, looking to the quantum and the nature of the businesses, like insurance companies, banking companies, non-financial institutions, then goods transport agency, the suppliers of passenger transportation services like Ola, Uber, railway, then the supplier of cinematograph films, I mean theaters, the special economic zone that is called SEZ unit, and the government department as well as local department. These are the categories of taxpayers who are not required to issue a e-invoice. They have to issue the tax invoice, but they have not required to upload this data on the IRP portal and place the QR code on the tax invoice. But these taxpayers are required to give the declaration of non-applicability of invoice as per the provisions of law on the face of invoice. Now, certain documents in the GST are there where the invoicing provisions are applicable, like the taxpayers whose aggregate turnover crosses the limit. Now, for what type of documents these invoicing are applicable? So if the taxpayer is issues tax invoice in case of B2B supplies, debit note and credit note in case of B2B supplies, then of course these invoicing provisions are applicable and this QR code is required to be generated. In case of export invoice, even though it is given to B2C supply, because the recipient is the not registered under GST, but as it is an export transaction, the e-invoicing provisions are applicable. So generally B2C supplies, these provisions are not applicable. But in case of exports invoice, this export of goods or export of export of services, these invoicing provisions are applicable. Now, the documents for which this invoicing are not required to be generated, that the B2C supplies, I mean normal local B2C supply, then delivery challan in case it is issued for job work transaction, self invoice if it is issued for any RCM transaction, bill of supply if the goods are exempted, then receipt voucher, payment voucher, and refund voucher. So in this type of documents which are required to be issued by the taxpayers, but that are not required to be this data is not required to be given on the IRB portal, and the QR code is not required to be generated for this type of category of the documents. So the above list of documents only these e-invoicing provisions are applicable. So this is generally the table contains the example where the invoicing provisions, whether these invoicing provisions are applicable or not. So you can see the first 5 categories of taxpayers: banking company, SEZ, movie theater, government department, and the GTA unit. Even though their turnover crosses the 5 crore, then also these invoicing provisions are not applicable because they are specifically exempted. Now, after that, if the manufacturer who is located in the DTA unit, suppose is having a turnover of 4 crore, then yes, invoicing provisions are not applicable because it is below 5 crore. But in the next 2 situations, it is more than 5 crore, then yes, invoicing provisions are applicable. But you can see in the case where the turnover of 8 crore, the tax documents are issued for the tax invoice, then yes, these invoicing provisions are applicable. But suppose in the next situation where there is a turnover of 10 crore and the taxpayer is issuing this delivery challan and bill of supply due to the exempted goods supply, then in such a case, these invoicing provisions are not applicable to them. In specifically for the issuance of delivery challan and the bill of supply. Then in case of SEZ developer, if the turnover is 4 crore, then no, these invoicing provisions are applicable. But yes, if it is crosses this limit, then these invoicing provisions are applicable. Now, in case of government department, generally what happened, the government departments were unregistered. They are not required to get itself registered because they are not supplying any services or goods. They are providing the sovereign function. So generally it is considered as a B2C supply and no IRN is required to be generated in case you have issued the tax invoice to the government portal, right? But in case the government department is having a TDS deducted turnover, so in some of the cases, the government department, as per section 51, they applied for the TDS deductor and get the TDS deductor number. Then in such a cases, the registered taxpayer is required to generate this IRN from the IRN portal, and this 10, the tax deduction account number is required to be shown as a recipient as a recipient's GSTIN in the invoice data. Now the government department is having both the number. Suppose the government department is providing sovereign function as also providing certain services which is taxable under GST. Then the government department might get this both the number as a normal GSTN number and the tax deducted number. Then in such a cases, the IRN is to be generated showing the normal GSTN of government department in the invoice data. These are very important consideration while issuing an invoice. Suppose the taxpayer is issuing a commercial credit note. Commercial credit note means the credit note which is not where the criteria under section 34 are not fulfilled. Okay. So in such a cases, the invoicing provisions are not applicable. So only the tax credit note which is issued under section 34, for that only, and even it is for only for the B2B supply, then only this invoicing are required. But in case of commercial credit note, even though it is issued to B2B cases, then also invoicing provisions are not applicable. Now the multi-branch company, for example, the E Limited, who is registered under Gujarat, then supplying these goods to its another branch located in Maharashtra. Now this is the case of branch transfer, same PAN, but different GSTN, then whether this invoicing is applicable? Yes, invoicing is applicable because it is considered as a B2B supplies. Now, in case of high C sale transaction or a bonded warehouse sale, suppose the goods are, imported from outside India and there is a transaction of high C sale and and you might be knowing this transaction of IC sale and bonded warehouse sale is covered under Schedule 3 item, which is not at all supply under GST. Then in such a cases for this type of transaction also invoicing are not required. Suppose the goods are imported or the services are imported and the taxpayer is issuing the self invoice or there is a bill of entry in the case of the import of goods, then whether this invoicing are required, then of course this invoicing is not applicable in case of import transaction. Now, ISD, as you might be aware that from 1/4/2025, ISD becomes mandatory in case there is a multi-branch entities having these multi-GSTN with the same PAN. Okay. So ISD number might be taken at the HO level. But the ISD unit is not required to follow these invoicing provisions. Okay. Now, X Limited, which is a DTA unit and providing a services to the SEZ Pharma SEZ unit, which is related to the Pharma Limited. Then in such a case, the invoicing is required to be generated because the DTA unit is providing a services to the SEZ unit. Suppose SEZ unit is providing these services, then there will be a different scenario. Now, as far as invoicing is concerned, there are certain parameters like there is a document date validation. So as per the release note, the validation of document date is not kept on the invoicing portal. Similarly, for invoice can be generated only if the GST registration status of recipient is active. So if you are mentioning the GSTN of the inactive supplier, then the system will not allow to generate the invoice. IRN is generally a unique 64-digit characters. This is just the alphanumeric hash code number, which is provided by the government portal itself. Now it is very important whether e-invoice can be amended or not. So there is no provision where the e-invoicing can be amended. So amendment of e-invoice is not possible. But whether this IRN which is generated from the invoice can be cancelled. So yes, IRN can be cancelled within a 24 hours from the generation of this invoice. In case of cancellation of this IRN, GSTR 1 also will be updated with the cancel status against this transaction. But suppose this time limit of 24 hours are crossed, then in such a case, there is no amendment and there is no cancellation is available with the taxpayer. Now, multiple IRN for the single invoice. So can the taxpayer can generate the multiple IRN with the single invoice number? No, the system will restrict the same. So same invoice number can be can be given in the only in one invoice, and if this IRN is generated, then the system will not allow to generate the duplicate IRN for the same invoice number. So this is just the process for generation of invoicing. First of all, the taxpayer is required to register on an invoice system or invoicing portal. Then they have to download this Excel template if they want to do the manual punching. Then fill the details of the transactions, invoices, and validate this sheet internally. If any error arises, then solve the error in the Excel sheet and then after generate the JSON file. After successful generation of this JSON file, you need to upload this JSON file on the IRP portal. Then again, IRP portal will validate this data on GST portal, and then they will be allowed to give the invoice, and that will be given. That will be provided to both supplier and buyer. So in case this is just the manual method for this generation of the e-invoicing, but you can also use the GSP and ASP services, which can be configured with your accounting system, Tally, ERP or SAP, and from that directly they can configuration can be done with the invoicing IRP portal, and based on once you generate the tax invoice, simultaneously, automatically, system will give this data on IRP portal and generate the QR code and place on the tax invoice. Now, there are two methods for logging into the e-invoicing portal. Suppose the supplier who is supplier is engaged in supply of goods as well as supply of services. So the supplier will be registered under e-way bill portal, right? So in such a case, the credentials which are there for the e-way bill portal will be used for the invoicing feature. But suppose the supplier is not registered on the e-way bill portal, then they have to generate the fresh login credentials on the IRP portal. And suppose there is a case of service provider, then they have to generate the fresh login credential for IRP portal. So it means if the person is registered under e-way bill portal, then they can use these login credentials for IRP portal. This is just the snapshot of the IRP portal. You can use the registration username, password, and then after use the login credentials. This is the registration screen from where you can register yourself. These are the sample formats of JSON. They have given the 4 type of formats. Format A, Format B, Format C, and Format D based on the different type of the nature of the supply. So suppose the taxpayer is engaging in the B2B supplies, SEZ and export supplies, then they can use the Format A. Suppose Format B is incorporating B2B supply, SEZ exports, deemed exports transactions with the single invoice transactions. In case of multiple line items, you need to select the Format C and Format D. But that is only relevant if you are doing the manual invoicing method. If you have a configuration with the IRP, by taking the base of taking the service of taking the service of GSPs and ASPs, then it is not relevant. So once this is the backend process, how the IRP portal works. So once you, upload the JSON and generate the invoice, the IRP portal generate the hash and provide the IRN number with the QR code. And these details will be shared by the government in 2 portals. One in the GST portal, in the GSTR 1, and second is on the e-way bill portal. So the data given on the IRP portal can be used for 2 things. One is for the generation of invoice, and second, in case there is a movement of goods, then part A of e-way bill will be directly fetched from this from IRP data, and the taxpayer is only required to give the details of part B in case of e-way bill. So these data will be helpful in 2 portals, GST portal as well as the e-way bill portal. Now there is a question, what if the invoice is not generated? So generally the e-invoice is required to be generated in B2B case, and these IRN and QR code is required to be placed. But suppose this document, the IRN number is not being generated by the taxpayer, then what are the penal consequences? So as per section 122 of CGST Act, the penalty shall be levied in case of non-compliance of CGST Act, 10,000 rupees or the tax amount, whichever is higher. So the department may levy the penalty in case the e-invoice has not been given. 10,000 rupees or the tax amount, whichever is higher, and we need to check this penal provision transaction base. And once this penalty is levied, then this is the penal provisions are applicable to the supplier. But what are the consequences to the recipient? So suppose the recipient has availed these services or goods where the invoice has not been generated by the supplier, then this document is treated as a invalid document. This tax invoice has not been valid tax invoice as per section as per the section 122, and hence this ITC of the recipient may denied by the taxpayer, may denied by the department. This is the sample invoice format. You can see the basic details of the supplier are fetched from the portal. Then after you can see the supply details. Supply of goods or services are given, like description of supply, HSN, quantity, rate, GST rates, and the total amount. These are the FAQs which generally we have covered covered above. Like whether the invoicing is mandatory. Yes, invoicing is mandatory in case of B2B supply, in case this turnover is more than 5 crore rupees. This is not applicable in case of financial and commercial credit note. Yes, of course, in case of the high C sales, no invoicing provisions are applicable. Even for the bill of entry also, invoicing provisions are not applicable. For ISD also, it is not applicable. The amendments are not possible, and the cancellation can only be done within the 24 hours from the generation of this IRP. And yes, yeah, we have also gone through this penalty provision of given under section 122. Yes, in case of introduction of e-invoicing, whether e-way bill is compulsory? Yes. E-invoicing is not substitute of tax invoice as well as e-way bill. Both the provisions are different. E-invoicing checks the validity of the tax invoice, whereas the e-way bill is required for the tracking of the movement of goods. So even though you have prepared this e-invoice and tax invoice, you need to prepare this e-way bill as well in case there is a movement of goods and comply with the other criteria. Yes, in case of IRP portal, bulk upload is also possible from the Excel-based conversion tool. So if you are not using this ASP GSP service, you can use this bulk upload conversion to Excel tool available on the IRP portal for uploading these details on the IRP portal. Yes, e-invoicing is not also applicable in case the supply covered under reverse charge mechanism for the recipient. So suppose the recipient is, preparing this self invoice, then the no invoice is applicable. If this invoice is not reported in IRP, then what are the consequences? So for supplier, it is the panel provisions, and for the recipient, there is a issue. The department may deny the ITC. Can e-invoice be generated prior to 30 days from the invoice date? So yes, as of now, it is this relaxation has been given. So you can, generate this invoice before the expiry of 30 days from the invoice date. So from the 1st April 25, the taxpayers whose aggregate turnover of more than 10 crore rupees must ensure that this e-way bill e-invoice is reported on IRP portal within 30 days from the invoice date. If this date is missed, then you cannot allow to provide this data on the IRP portal. So this is for the invoicing provisions. Now we will move forward to the e-way bill. Yes, e-way bill, of course, it is these provisions are made applicable from the 1/4/2018, and this e-way bill is mandatory in case of the movement of goods. So in VAT, there was certain forms which are available, certain forms which are used for the movement of goods. Similarly, by adopting the concept of VAT in GST, they have given the concept of e-way bill. So Rule 138 says that the registered person who causes the movement of goods, this movement can be in relation to the supply, maybe not in relation to the supply, or maybe an inward supply from received from the unregistered person. And further, if the consignment value of this consignment is more than 50,000, then only this e-way bill is required. So registered person who causes the movement of goods where the consignment value is more than 50,000 rupees, and this supply may be given to the registered person as well as unregistered person, the e-way bill is required to be prepared. Now the question is, what is called as a consignment value? So consignment value consists of basic value of the goods or services plus taxes, I mean GST, less the value of exempted supply. So suppose this table contains different scenarios. Suppose in the first case, the value of taxable goods is, let's say, 45,000, tax is 5,400, and out of which exempted goods value is a 10,000. So what will be the consignment value? Total value is a 50,400. So yes, of course, e-way bill is required to be prepared because the consignment value is more than 50,000. Now in the second scenario, you can see the value of taxable goods is 40,000, GST is 4,800, and exempted goods value is 15,000. So the total consignment value comes to 44,800. Yes, and similarly in the below case, it's 11,200. In both the cases, the e-way bill provisions are not applicable. Yes, so if the value of the consignment value is less than 50,000, there will be no there is no requirement to issue the e-way bill. Now these are the stakeholders of the e-way bill, like supplier, transporter, recipient, and of course the learned officers. This is the implementation history of the e-way bill. From 16th 16 January 18, these voluntarily these e-way bill provisions are also implemented on phase-wise manner. From the January 18, the government has voluntarily given to all taxpayers to use this facility of e-way bill. And then after slowly and gradually, different states have implemented these e-way bill provisions and implement the same in the state-wise manner. So from the 1/4/2018 year, of course, it is compulsory for interstate movement of goods. Now, as far as Gujarat is concerned, they have given one notification in Gujarat. In case there is an intra-city movement of goods, then no e-way bill is required. Yes, for the interstate movement of goods, yes, it is required. Intrastate movement of goods, it is required. But for intra-city movement of goods, this e-way bill is not required. This is specific to the Gujarat. E-way bill provisions may differ from state to state. So in case of the Gujarat, in case the Gujarat state, if we check the e-way bill applicability, so yes, of course, intra-city movement, no e-way bill is required. But yes, intra-state movement, if it is more than 50,000, consignment value is more than 50,000, then yes, this e-way bill is required. You can see the example in case there is an interstate movement, let's say Gujarat to Maharashtra, and the value of goods is more than 50,000, 60,000. Yes, e-way bill is required. In second case, the e-way bill is not required because the value of goods is less than 50,000. Now, from the Ahmedabad to Surat, it is called as an intrastate movement. The above two is an interstate movement, and from Ahmedabad to Surat it is an intrastate movement. Then yes, if it is more than 50,000, then e-way bill is required. But yes, for the intracity movement, like see from the goods are moving from CG Road to Maninagar, then yes, even though the value exceeds rupees 50,000, no e-way bill is required. But suppose the goods are moving from Mundra, SEZ, Gujarat to Ahmedabad, and the value is more than 50,000, then yes, of course, this e-way bill is required. It is considered as an interstate movement. Supply to SEZ is always considered as an interstate movement. Now, sometimes what happen if you are having this tax invoice or invoice, but you are not having a e-way bill. Then at the check post, yes, at the time of the interception, that may create the issue. Now, generally, the generation of e-way bill. So, generally, certain taxpayers are not required to, issue this e-way bill. So, if the goods are transported through railways, the railway will not generate this in e-way bill, but railway will not deliver these goods unless the recipient or supplier will provide this e-way bill copy at the time of delivery. So railways are being exempted from generation of the e-way bill. This is the validity chart of invoice. So generally they have given the kilometer limit. So as of now, there is a limit of 200 kilometers. So they are providing a 1 day in case of the other than the over-dimensional cargo, in case of the multimodal shipment, and 20-kilometer limit in case of there is a over-dimensional cargo, or in case of the multi-modal shipment. So additional 1 day will be available in increase of the kilometers limit. Generally, this validity will be start from from when the details of the part B of e-way bill will be updated. So we will check. There will be a two parts in e-way bill. There is a part A and the part B. The part A gives the basic details of the transaction, like what is the transaction, supply transaction, whether it is towards sale, towards job work, towards exhibition. Then it gives the details of the supplier and buyer. I mean the GST and details of the supplier and the recipient, and from where to where these goods are moving. Okay, so these are the in addition to that, it also covers the details of the supply, like what is the HSN of this supply, this goods, and what is the value, quantity, tax amount, and the total amount. This is these details are there in the part A. Another is a part B. So EWB01, that is e-way bill form, in part B, they are providing the transporter details. So the transporter, you can, there are two options. Either you can give the details of transporter, like the vehicle number, from where these goods are moving, and another is you can give the GSTN GSTN of the transporter. Then transporter will update this part B, and then move these goods to the for the transportation. When these goods are transported within the validity period, then there is no issue. But if the validity is expired and due to certain circumstances, these goods are not, sent to the destination, then in such a case, this e-way bill validity may be extended within the 8 hours from the expiry of this time period. Where the GST registration of taxpayer has been suspended, neither taxpayer or recipient or the transporter will not able to generate the e-way bill. So while generating this e-way bill similar to the invoice, they will check this GSTIN. If this is suspended, then the system will not allow to generate the same. E-way bill generation facility shall also be blocked if the taxpayer does not file this GST 3B for the 2 consecutive tax periods. So it is very essential to file the GST returns on timely basis. Otherwise, they will not allow to, they will not allow to generate the e-way bill or invoice because your number will be suspended. Certain exemptions were also given in case of the e-way bill, like some of the exemptions related to the product specific, some of there are person specific, transport specific, or a place specific. So generally, suppose the goods are exempted, goods are moved, then there is no requirement to generate the e-way bill. So suppose suppose the farmer is moving the grain, then there is no requirement to issue e-way bill because these goods are exempted under GST. In case there is a non-GST supply, there is empty cargo containers, or any goods which are moving related to specifically entry covered under Schedule 3, like high sea sale, then in such a cases, no e-way bill is required to be generated. Similarly, in case the goods are transported as a transit cargo from Nepal to Bhutan, then yes, no requirement for e-way bill. In case the goods are moving in the non-motorized conveyance, then also this e-way bill is not required. Some certain place specific exemptions are also given, like from the custom goods are moving from custom port airport to the cargo complex and to the inland container for further transportation. Then no e-way bill requirement for this in transit movement. And yes, of course, if the goods are transported from one custom station to another port, or another custom station, then also this e-way bill is not required. These are certain exemptions, like the supply of movement of alcoholic liquor, petroleum crude, high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas. Then there is no requirement to generate e-way bill because they are non GST supplies. If the consigner of goods is government, then also this it is done by this transport of goods is done by the rail, then of course this e-way bill is not required. These are again the description of goods where there is no requirement to generate the e-way bill. Now bill to ship to transactions. So bill to ship to transaction is that, like, suppose A has ordered the goods from the B, and A has instructed B to directly supply these goods to the C. So that is called, this transaction is called as a bill to ship to transaction. Now in bill to ship to transactions, there are two legs of transaction and the two documents are issued. But yes, of course, movement is done only once. So first leg of transaction is that A purchases a goods from B, and where the invoice will be raised by B to A. And second is A directly sell these goods to C. And in that case, invoice will be raised by A to C. Okay. So in both the cases, there is specifically given in the price note, only one e-way bill is required. Either e-way bill can be generated by B by giving a details of the invoice issued by him, B to A. And if B is not generated this e-way bill, then e-way bill can be generated by A by giving the details of the invoice raised by A to C. There are no requirement to issue two different e-way bills by A or B. Only one person can generate this e-way bill by giving the details of the any one of the invoice that will suffice by the government. These are the transaction. This table shows the bill to ship to scenarios. Suppose the location of supplier is Gujarat, Ahmedabad, and the recipient is Surat. Suppose buyer is located in Maharashtra. So the movement will be done from Maharashtra to Gujarat directly to SEZ, directly to Surat. Then it will be considered as the goods are moved from intrastate. Location of supplier is Ahmedabad and recipient is Surat. So this movement is intrastate and the value of goods is more than 50,000, let's say 60,000. Then in such a case, e-way bill is applicable. In the second case, the e-way bill is not applicable because the limit is the value of goods is less than 50,000. And even though it is an interstate movement, then also this e-way bill is not required. In third case, the goods are moved from the Gujarat to Maharashtra, and the location of buyer is the Surat. Who instruct this location of buyer means the person who give the instruction. So here it is interstate transaction and the value of goods is more than 50,000. Then yes, of course, e-way bill is required. In last two scenarios, e-way bill is not required because the transaction is an intra-cities transaction of Gujarat. So even though value exceeds 50,000, no e-way bill is required. In case of interception of the conveyance by the land officers, then what will be the procedure? So we have just given in the flowchart. Generally, jurisdictional officers have a right to intercept the conveyance if he has any suspicion. The proper officer can intercept the conveyance and ask for the relevant documents along with the e-way bill and invoice. Person in charge of the conveyance has to produce the records, like whether records like tax invoice, e-way bill or invoice, wherever it is applicable. Suppose they are not, then after this production, the officer will issue the form MOV01 to conclude the proceedings within the within a certain time period given in the law, as per the time period given under the law. Now, when the documents are suffice and they are matches with the goods which is there in the conveyance, then it is there is no requirement to issue there is no requirement to start the proceedings. But suppose they have no, they fails to produce certain documents, like e-way bill is required but it was not there. Suppose invoice is required but it was not there, then in such a cases the loan officer will start the proceedings under different forms. They will record the statement of the transporter. They will issue the other forms of e-way bill, EWB 03 and MOV 02. They will also physically match these goods for the inspect. They will inspect the goods and also report the same in the MOV 04 form and for the physical verification. And then after these forms will be given to the assessee and along with the notice. Generally in e-way bill case, the show cause notice will be given, where the taxpayer can give their note. You can see the MOV 07, which specify the notice specifying tax and penalty payable by the owner of goods. Against the same, the taxpayer can reply the same. But for release of the goods, they have to make the payment of tax or give the bond for the provisional release of goods. By giving a MOV 08 or the tax, by paying a penalty under protest, these goods can be released. And then after, the department may issue the form MOV 09. MOV 09 is the order for confirming the demand and penalty. If the taxpayer is not satisfying this order, then they can file the appeal before the appellant authority in form APL 01. So these are the forms which are there in the e-way bill, where the loan tax officer can issue at the time of interception of the goods. This is the sample e-way bill. You can see there are a part A and part B. Two parts were there. Part A gives the basic details of the taxpayer and the goods, and part B is related to these transaction goods transaction. These FAQs are generally related to the e-way bill, which we have already covered. Yes, e-way bill can be important is whether e-way bill can be modified or edited. So yes, e-way bill once generated cannot be edited or modified, but yes, part B can be modified or updated. So if the taxpayer has given certain information regarding transporter, which is wrong or which is required to be updated, then this can be done within the 24 hours from the time of generation. Once this time period has been completed, you need to cancel this e-way bill and is required to be generated afresh. There is one concept of transing. So generally the transporter can also generate this e-way bill. For that, the transporter can create their transporter ID, which is called as a transin, which is a 15-digit unique number and can be generated from the e-way bill portal. Now, what if this validity of e-way bill is expired? Yes, once this e-way bill validity is expired, the transporter may extend the validity within the 8 hours after the expiry period. But after the updating the reason of extension, they have given certain reasons. Based on by selecting an appropriate reason, you can validity can be extended by the taxpayer or a transporter. Yes, can I move the goods to the transporter without part B? No. So once if you have filled the part A, but you have not filled the part B, then e-way bill is not valid. So e-way bill validity only starts once you entering the details in part B. So part B is also very important, and the taxpayer is required to file both part A and part B, both. And if it is filed and e-way bill is generated, then only it will be considered as a valid e-way bill. If there is a mistake or wrong entry in e-way bill, then what can be done? So as already told, it cannot be edited or corrected. Option is only available. You have to cancel this e-way bill and needs to generate the another e-way bill with the correct details. So we have mentioned certain, landmark cases which can be used as and when appeal can be filed. Appeal is required to be filed by taxpayer in case of the goods are intercepted by the authority. So there are certain principles in one of the case Satyam Shivam papers. The Supreme Court told that generally what happened. The GST authorities have detained that in this case the GST authorities have detained their goods due to expiry of the e-way bill. And this why the e-way bill is expired, there is a traffic blockage issue. So in such a case, the court has held that this penalty is not required to be levied, and the detention order is required to be set aside because the delay is due to the general circumstances due to traffic and public interruption, and which were beyond the control of the petitioner. So in that case, this e-way bill extension, even though not taken, the GST authorities allow the same. There is, in case of e-way bill, a very landmark circular has been issued by the CBIC 64 by 38 2018, which specifically gives the situations like if the taxpayer has, do the very normal mistakes while generating the e-way bill. Like there may be a spelling mistakes in the name of consigner or consignee. There may be a PIN code details or address details which are resulting in there may be an error in entering the PIN code details or address of the consigner or consignee, or maybe one or two digit of the document number may be misplaced by the taxpayers, or there may be a error in the 4 to 6 digit level of the HSN which are required to be mentioned in part A of the notices. So they have specified this 6 type of situations where even though there is a clerical error, this e-way bill the goods cannot be detained, and the penalty huge penalty cannot be levied under section 129. Although this penalty can be reduced to rupees 1,000, 500 under CGST and 500 in SGST as per section 125. In case the e-way bill expired, then yes, they have to make sure the transporter is, timely inform the owner and renew this validity can be extended on the e-invoice portal within 8 hours. Yes, this case law is related to the human errors, which cannot be capitalized to collect the penalty. Again, they have made the clerical error while mentioning the distance on the e-way bill. Instead of mentioning 470, they have instead of mentioning 1470 kilometers, they have mentioned the 470 kilometers. So in such a case, the Tripura High Court has relied upon this circular 64 by 2018, and they have held that the proceedings under section 129 cannot be initiated, and there is a minor clerical error will solely on account of the incorrect distance being shown in the generating the e-way bill, and no huge penalty can be levied. Yes, so this is from my side. So thank you so much for joining this session. And yes, over to you, Ravi bhai.
Yep. The forum is open for questions. Feel free to ask question.
Yes, any questions?
All right, since no questions, thank you so much, Bhageshri Ben, for the insightful session, and thanks to the wonderful audience. Thank you.
I think there is one question from Jinansh bhai.
Yes, please.
Well, if my goods are in transport I have generated the e-way bill and e-invoice, and it has been the period in which it should be cancelled has been expired. So now what is the scene that my goods are with the transporter and the goods has started being transported. So if the state I have created the e-invoice, e-way bill and e-invoice for the supply which has been incurred from Gujarat to Kashmir. So my goods are in the transit and the goods have reached to the Delhi, and now the purchaser has trying to say that I want to cancel the order right now. So now the thing is the order is been cancelled, so I have to generate the credit note for the e-invoice. So what should I do now?
Okay. So in your case, what I am understanding, the movement has already initiated and the e-invoice and e-way bill has already been prepared, right? And the goods are
Yes.
under like in Delhi and they are not reaching to the recipient location. And before that, this transaction, this your order has been cancelled. Order got cancelled, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
now you need to, generate the credit note because the period given for the cancellation of this e-invoice and e-way bill as period has been expired. If this can order of cancellation has been done within a 24 hours, then yes, of course, you can cancel your e-invoice or e-way bill. But this period has already been expired, then you have to move back these goods from Delhi to Ahmedabad, right? For that, you need to create this credit note, right, for the for the recipient. Okay. And for moving these goods from the from Delhi to the Ahmedabad, you need to create this e-way bill based on the document. You can also, use the delivery challan, because as the ownership has not been transferred to the recipient, you cannot use the name of the recipient. Okay. So based on your delivery challan, you can prepare this e-way bill and then move back the goods from the Delhi to the Ahmedabad.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
We have one more question from Suresh Prajapati. E-invoice and e-way bill generated and what to cancel the same. Which one should I cancel first? He's adding
E-
that e-invoice generated within
and
30 days from the date of invoice. Is there any days for generation of e-way bill?
So first question is e-invoice and e-way bill generated and want to cancel the same. Which one should I cancel first? Okay, which I should, okay. So yes, of course, if the e-way bill, first of all, if the movement is not required, then you need to cancel this e-way bill and simultaneously e-invoice from the IRP portal, because the portal is one for generation of invoice and e-way bill. You can use the IRP portal. So if you are canceling your e-way bill, simultaneously your e-invoice can be cancelled from the same portal. Second thing is that e-invoice generation, yes, of course, 30 days time limit is available as of now. But for the e-way bill, there is no time limit given. Once you move your goods, once your part B is updated, your validity starts. So before your movement starts, you need to generate this e-way bill, and part B will be updated once the movement starts.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now,
we have two questions. Yeah.
okay. If material are transferred in a part, need to prepare a e-way bill or at the time of final dispatch? Yes, of course. So there is one, Amit bhai, there is one rule under CGST rules, Rule 55, which talk about the goods which are, sent in bits and pieces in part. Okay. So in such a case, you need to prepare the final tax invoice first. Then after, as and when the transport is done in the part, you need to prepare the delivery challan by giving the reference of that entire tax invoice and e-way bill showing the details of the delivery challan. So in when the goods are transferred in parts, the transporter must have the original tax invoice in totality basis and the delivery challan, where delivery challan for the consignment with the goods which are there in the for the goods which are there in the consignment, along with the e-way bill, and these e-way bill details must be there of the delivery challan. So it means for every movement of goods, even it is in parts, e-way bill is required.
And the last question from Arun. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to check on the earlier query where the earlier query was raised, in which it was mentioned that once the goods have reached Delhi, then the vendor has cancelled the order. But let's say the vendor has not cancelled the order and the consignment is in transit and the e-way bill has expired and it could not be renewed at time. So in that case, what needs to be done?
Okay, so before inception of the goods, suppose your time period of 8 hours has already been completed, then system will not allow you to, the system will not allow to extend this validity, right? So in that case, you need to generate again the e-invoice, again the e-way bill for the further movement. So if this e-way bill is not generated, then what happen, any officer will intercept these goods and will issue the MOV forms and the notices. So in that case, as we have not the validity has not been extended and already time period has been over, so the only the only one question only one thing is with us is to prepare the e-way bill.
No, but
Fresh
system will
e-way
not allow to issue two e-way bill for the same invoice.
Yes, so you need to cancel. Otherwise, you need to cancel the e-way bill earlier. But if this time period of cancellation is also completed, then the system will even not allow to cancel this e-way bill, right?
No, I'm not saying to cancel. I'm saying that I had created a e-way bill. The consignment was in transit. It had raised to Delhi. Now, due to whatever reason, I could not extend the e-way bill within 8 hours. Anyway, now
Okay.
the consignment has to reach to Jammu and Kashmir. So in this scenario, what needs to be done? Because the system will not allow me to create a secondary e-way bill. Subsequent e-way bill also is not required. Even if I create a second e-way bill in the government system, there would be two e-way bills. So they might create a demand saying that you have done the shipment against two e-way bill for which you have not generated the IRN and the demand can be generated. So in this scenario, what needs to be done?
Yes, you rightly said. Even system will not allow to prepare the e-way bill because the same invoice number will not allow to enter into the e-way bill, as the e-way bill has already been prepared for that tax invoice, right? So what can be done? We can maybe issue the credit note and then after raise the another tax invoice, and from that moment we generate the fresh e-way bill. Because once any officer intercepted goods and these documents are not available, then they can create then they may create the issue and raise the MOV forms.
Understand, Bhagya, but is this a practical solution that I do the credited note and then raise the new invoice and then do the e-way bill?
And yes,
Because-
that is just a practical aspect, because system will not allow us to, after the 8 hour expiry of 8 hour system, even the manually government will also not allow us to extend this validity
So
of the e-way bill.
let's say in this scenario, let's say even if I raise the credit note, raise the new invoice, how do I share this document with the drivers? And
Yes, that
in
documents can be,
between,
even they are not saying that the documents must be, there with the physical form. That can be in electronic forms, not an issue.
and in
Because what
between,
happened in
let's say.
earlier times, the government are allowing us to, if we just, give the declaration to the jurisdiction officer, कि this type of situation happens and we are not, we could not, extend this e-way bill due to the system phase or validity issue. So they were allowing. But as of now, the jurisdiction officers are not allowing this type of, declarations, manual declarations. So we need to take the practical approach only. Yes, certain case laws are also there. where this type of situation happens, and if it is a genuine and due to genuine reasons, we are not allowed to, we could not extend this validity. Of course, the High Court says that कि भाई penalty नहीं लगेगी. So this type of case laws are available with us and in the favor of the taxpayer. But there must be some, genuine reason for
No,
not
Bhagya,
extending this validity.
I understand there has to be a genuine reason, but let's say in an organization there are, let's say daily 100 trucks are deployed, 100 trucks are going from here to there. So people can't track each and every truck status, where it has reached and whether the e-way bill is valid or not valid. So people can miss one or two e-way bills, could not be extended on time. So, and when it is not extended, and at that time only if it is intercepted, before I raise any credit note and raise one new invoice, if it is intercepted, a new demand will be raised by the assessing officer. So my limited point was, has this been raised with the government authority, or has this similar cases been there, like some case laws or something like there in the past as a precedent?
Yes. Case laws were there. We can share you. If you need, you can just pin me. We can share you. The favorable case laws are there, but there must be some genuine reason. If these genuine reasons were there, then High Courts and Supreme Court says that yes, this even though the validity has not been extended, still the penalty shall not be levied under Section 129.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think we are good to wrap it up. Thank you so much once again, Bhageshri Ben, for the insightful
Thank you.
session. Thanks to the wonderful audience for the questions and active participation. Thank you, everyone.